Hi everyone, Dr. Kelly Ray here. Coffee Talk with Dr. Kelly Ray. I want to check in with you. I want to see how you're doing. I'm going to give you a minute or two to get on here. I want to see how you're doing as we're proceeding along with this pandemic and some of the triggers that can be coming up. I want to talk to you today about forgiveness and your inner critic and what that could potentially look like, what it could feel like. You know, yesterday was Mother's Day here in the United States, and many of us were blessed to have connection with our either our moms or our kids to be in connection with us, and some not. And some of that could be because they've passed on, or maybe there's a little bit more underlying issues that are going on that allow those relationships to not be as close-knit. And those can be very triggering. It can be very triggering when it's a holiday like Mother's Day and either your kids not being in contact with you or you not being in contact with your parent, because there's been some things that have happened over a span of time. And forgiveness, if I can just be really honest with you, forgiveness is kind of hard. It kind of sucks. There's a process to go through that, and it's hard and it sucks for that inner critic. I'm not just talking about moms and kids relationships. I'm talking about relationship. Usually forgiveness comes from something that's happened to us from somebody else. Whether that be a spouse or a lover or a friendship. Certainly families, that can be a big one where, you know, maybe there's been some things done and somebody's feelings got hurt, or maybe there was intentional things done, and it can cause these wounds that can be very, very deep-seated. And in these deep-seated wounds is where our inner critic is housed and processes this information. And so when we talk about forgiveness, I can tell you for myself, years ago when I was going through therapy for being sexually abused and molested and raped over a period of time by different people, and I was told, you know what, you need to forgive these people for what they've done. And I'm not gonna lie, my first reaction was, F you and any of the schooling that you've gone through that tells you that this is a really good idea to do. I mean, seriously, who thinks this is a freaking good idea? I don't care what kind of degree you have in psychology or counseling or whatever. The idea that you're telling me I need to forgive these people for what they've done, you're absolutely out of your mind. Good day, sir. So how did that work out for me? Well, I can tell you that it affected my intimate relationships. It affected my relationships with women. It affected my health. It affected my weight. It affected my self-esteem. It affected my career. It affected my spirituality. And I think that covers pretty much all of the gamut of how non-forgiveness affected that, because I was too stubborn. I couldn't understand the logic behind the need to forgive. Here's the beautiful thing. If I can just make one thing really clear, your inner critic, this rascal right here, you know mine is Trudy, does not operate on any way, shape, or form from a reasoning of logic. Not gonna happen. Just don't even try to rationalize with your inner critic. I can tell you a couple of things are going to happen. It's like having a tug of war with somebody over whether or not the moon is full or almost full. It's an endless battle because Both people are coming from a position of their observation, from their belief systems, from their viewing of what they think the moon is doing at the moment. That's just a very tiny, minute sample of what it is trying to rationalize with your inner critic. You can bring up all of the arguments that you want that show factual basis of why it's important to forgive these things that have happened to us. But to our inner critic, what they hear is like Charlie Brown's teacher. Wah, 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 wah. They don't even care. Not impressing them 1 minute. If anything, in this rational, logical thinking to try to convince somebody why forgiveness is a good idea, it's going to cause you, the person who's dealing with it, to possibly shut down more, become more enraged and angry, become more depressed, become more anxious, become more hurt, feel more guilty, feel more shame. And trust me, you already feel those things as a result of having something done against you. Maybe your mom has not been the ideal mom. Maybe she hasn't been the mom that you wanted to love you on the level that you wanted to be loved, and felt so passionately and powerful of what you have defined of what love is. The same is true for relationships. If you've been somebody who has been sexually abused, you could go a couple of different ways. One, you could become very, very frigid and therefore withdraw from intimacy and have a fine line of not being able to differentiate between intimacy and sex. You could also go the other extreme and just become very, very physically active. You could take on a persona of, all I'm worth is my physical body anyway, so I might as well either get something out of it, or maybe if I do it enough, I'll feel something. Now, mind you, this is all the inner critic's dialogue that happens. It's not something that we consciously are thinking of. Most of us that have been through some kind of trauma are not consciously thinking of ways to manipulate other people because we've been hurt, or how we want to try to protect ourselves from how we've been hurt. It's an unconscious state, which is why forgiveness is so important and yet so incredibly hard to do. Learning to get past those injustices is where I think a lot of people get confused. It's not getting past them as far as they never happened. No, they happened. Those experiences that have happened to you previously are experiences that have cultivated the language in which your inner critic operates from and continues to want to protect you from. Even if in that protective mechanism that it's using is causing you more harm, is holding you back, is keeping you stuck, is keeping you locked in shame, locked in guilt, locked in anger, locked in hurt, locked in anxiety, locked in depression. So how do we get past this? I can tell you it's not going to happen necessarily in this video that I'm sharing with you. I'm just trying to bring some light and insight as to how the whole process works. And certainly you and I can work together if there's something that you're wanting to once and for all be moving past, because it's for your wellness. It's for your sustainability. It's for your vibrant living. Just so I can make that disclaimer. So as we're moving through this process of forgiveness, I can tell you for myself, one of the things that was super, super hard was the one I just explained, that if I forgave these injustices that happened to me, these wrongdoings that happened to me, that somehow I was letting them off the hook and that they were no longer responsible for the pain and suffering that I endured as a result of what happened. Now, make that applicable to anywhere in your life, whether it be your mom relationships, whether it be your sexual partner relationships, whether it be your intimate relationships, which those could be two totally different things, whether it be family relationships. Taking that's one, is that somehow I feel like I'm having to, in forgiving them, that puts them off the hook. It doesn't. It's already done. They've already committed the crime. They've already committed the wrongdoing. They've already committed the act that caused you to feel victimized by what happened. So no matter what you do moving forward is not going to change that thing that happened in the past. 2, the other reason it's really hard, it's been my experience not only for myself but for clients that I work with, that forgiveness process means then I will need to change myself. What does that mean? So again, I'll give an example from my own life, and this was super challenging to actually work through, which was I had to forgive the story that I was continuing to live in as a result of these injustices, as a result of these wrongdoings. Because I didn't realize that I was operating in a place of victimization. I was still operating in a place of being wronged, of an injustice. So therefore, that impacted any relationship I had moving forward. So any man that wanted to date me, he then had to endure the wrongdoing of another group of men who violated me. I wanted to believe in my mind that I was consciously present, that I was having a relationship, meeting a new man that was not these old men, that it was not these people who had done me wrong. I felt in my heart I was giving them a fair shot. I was giving them a chance to meet them where they were. In reality, my inner critic was not. My inner critic was hyper vigilant of making sure that I understood that every man was not safe for me. That every man was not able to create a space that would be thriving and supportive and loving and nurturing and kind, and I would be anything other than just my body. Whether they were or weren't, my inner critic had no deviation from that story. So when there's no deviation in that story coming from those limiting beliefs, then you're able to then look for all of those reasons why this person is not safe for you, all those reasons why this person is not the right fit for you, whether it's true or not. Your inner critic is so passionate about keeping you safe, even if in that keeping you safe is not reality, is not real, is not true. But it magnifies it so well that it then sabotages all of your relationships. Same was true with women. I had this built-in belief that women were not, that they were catty, that they were backstabbing, that they were not kind, that they were always trying to get one leg up, or they were just, excuse the expression, bitchy. And so therefore, you can imagine the kind of women I had in my younger days. They were women that were not trustworthy, women that were catty, talk behind your back, cause problems. And in fairness, I did the same. And that is so freaking humbling to own that as part of the forgiveness. Forgiving yourself for any of that you have taken on as a way to try to protect yourself. Sabotaged my career because I was constantly putting myself in a position of victimization of, here I work my ass off really hard and do so much. How come I'm not getting promoted? Well, I wasn't recognizing maybe where I was doing some things that were not putting me in the light of receiving those promotions. Again, because this inner critic has convinced me otherwise and has convinced many of you otherwise. It affected my relationship with my mom as well. My mom and I had this relationship of this, not love-hate, because I don't want to say I hated my mom. I love my mom, but I'm very, very frustrated with her because I never understood why we couldn't get this really super closeness that I really wanted and thought would be, what you see, all the things that you wish that you had because you see it in other people, but you're not having it. So then again, you feel victimized that you're not getting it. But my mom held her own guilt, her own shame, her own demons inside of her for things that happened over her life. That, of course, from that generation, they never talked about those things. They never processed through those things. Their processing was stuff it down and power on. And some of us still operate from that standpoint today because we've adopted those ways of being from generations past. This is super important to understand with regards to our beliefs and our limiting beliefs. Those limiting beliefs that aren't serving us, that we feel are keeping us stuck, are holding us back, are keeping us from not having successful relationships, maybe having very poor body image, maybe not being able to lose weight or gain weight or feel beautiful in your body. Feel strong. I speak as a woman to other women. And so men, please, if you're watching this, understand that this includes you as too. I know that you're not exempt from your inner critic. I know you're not exempt from having injustices that have happened to you in the past. And maybe it's been a real struggle to try to forgive. Forgive is different than forgetting. Sometimes we want to think that we've forgotten, oh, that was in the past, it's not happening anymore. But unless we are clearing up the things that our inner critic are telling us, causing us to operate from, then we never fully move forward in a healthy way. We never fully forgive the anger that we have or the frustration that we may have for why life isn't working the way that we want to, even though we're trying our best, even though we think we're being really good people. It has nothing to do with whether you're a good person or not. It has everything to do with how do we tame this inner critic. It has everything to do with the level of hurt that you hold. Hurt for relationships, hurt in your family relationships, hurt in your personal relationships, hurt in your intimate relationships, hurt with the relationship you have with yourself. Any guilt, any shame. That's the thing about these things is you could be going along life very, very well. Things are going along and then all of a sudden, boom, one day you wake up and you're feeling triggered. And you're feeling guilty about something and you're just like, but that's over with and I should be done with this. Or I feel really ashamed that this thing happened, but I don't know how to move past that. And then I go get really busy. I go dive into my job. I, go exercise like crazy. I go do things to divert me from this feeling because I felt I dealt with this feeling. If you're experiencing that feeling, hurt, shame, guilt, anxiety, stress, depression, anger, those are all really good signs that this inner critic here is trying to get your attention. And it's a beautiful opportunity to sit down, understand the languaging of what they're really trying to tell you as a result of these feelings that you're having, and for you to be able to process through them in a healthy way. It's not just stuffing it aside and saying, oh, we'll get past that, we'll push through that. I'll go do all the tools that I know usually work, which is overwork, avoid these things, maybe go comfort eat, maybe go binge watch Netflix, maybe go, run an extra mile on the treadmill today, because then this will quiet down. What if you didn't have to do all of those things? What if you could do those things because you wanted to, but not because you were needing to not have to deal with this right here? The inner voice that's bringing up these feelings. These feelings are so real, they're so raw, and they're so telling of what your inner critic is wanting to do. Your inner critic doesn't want to be a little bitch, as some people like to say. Your inner critic doesn't want to sabotage you. Your inner critic doesn't want to hold you back and keep you stuck and, down with the man type thing. No, it's not what it wants to do. It's what it knows how to do. Because that's the place that it operates from. And if it's wanting to get your attention, is it possible that it's wanting to operate in a different manner? Is it possible that you're wanting to operate in a different manner, that you're wanting to move forward in your life and make some decisions in your life that might be a little scary right now because these things are coming up and you're afraid you're going to make a mistake, or you're afraid that you're not going to make the right decision, or you're afraid of what happens if? All of those things that generally come up with when we're trying to expand or live more vibrantly or make decisions in our lives that are a little bit different than where we are in our present state. This is a fantastic time to look at this. It's a fantastic time to reach out to me so I can help you understand what your inner critic is saying, what your inner critic is wanting, and how we could together work through finding a way to tame it, allow it to be heard, allow you and them to move forward in a healthy, vibrant way. It's challenging to do it on your own. It's challenging to have a conversation with this inner critic who has been operating in a certain way for a very long time. Again, we want to, in our present state, operate with our inner critic through logic, through reasoning, through facts. And I can tell you that doesn't work. It does not work. It's fruitless, and it just causes more angst, more frustration, more So how about if we do that different? I'd love to have a conversation with you. If any of this is resonating with you, let me know. And also, I'm going to share this video also on my personal page, because I know in our private group here it's not something that can be shared, but I feel like I want to put it out on my personal page too. So if you feel that there's somebody in your world who could really benefit from this topic right here, I'm going to ask you to please go to my personal page, because it'll be a public video, and share that video. We just never know who might need to hear this message, including ourselves and those that we really care about. Until next time, please know, as always, I send you so much love. Bye.